Whoops. Hello everyone. So I can see my camera is extremely dark. So let me quickly let me work on it, configure video and increase the exposure to yeah, now it's a bit better. And now it's bright. So let's go to 4. Okay. So today I will be doing the burning skeleton. I will continue on it. I basically finished almost everything that I had to do for today. Later I will just do some polishing and I can safely, without any problems whatsoever, go to finish my skeleton. So let's keep the sketch only somewhere in here, and let's keep the fog in here and name it a sketch. And let's make it red. So I have no idea for how long I will be streaming today. We will see. And yeah, story as always, if anyone has any questions whatsoever, and if anything is interesting to you and you would like to know something, feel free to ask. And if you have any artworks or whatever that you would like me to criticize on, also send the links. And yeah, this is pretty much all. Let me grab a little bit more of light in here. So we left on this stage last time, and I guess I only have to do more polishing. And today I will also try to figure out the fire, how to add it on this guy. And also, while I finished the stream, I kind of felt the head is not rotated correctly, so I just kind of changed the angle for it because I felt it just needed to be adjusted. So yeah, this is pretty much all that I have planned for today. And maybe if I will somehow finish this fella today, maybe, just maybe, then I will randomize the next monster. So I will see who am I going to paint next. And I'm really wishing for something more meaty, something more cool in a sense than a skeleton, because I have done quite a lot of different skeletons at this point. So yeah, this is pretty much all that I have to say. Nothing too crazy was happening today. I wanted to play some games yesterday, but I just opened a beer and I forgot. I mean, not forgot that I wanted to play some games. I instantly got lazy and decided to not play any games and to not watch a movie. So maybe today, after the stream, maybe I will find some time to play something. And yeah, this is pretty much all I have been up to for past 24 hours. And I'm kind of glad that I managed to organize my stuff together and to be more active with the streams, because I have been lacking for a really long time with them, and now everything is back. So yeah, also on my Instagram, if anyone is wondering or wants to get an update when the stream is starting, there is a link tree. I mean, I will post on my story on Instagram. This is first thing. The second thing is I also made a Discord server quite some time ago. So if you want to be up to date with everything, then this is the place where you want to go pretty much, because everything that is going on will happen also. Will be linked on a Discord server. So yeah. Also in there you can post some artworks and everything, and kind of interact with whoever is on the server currently, which I feel is kind of cool. It's not the biggest community because it's 50 people at the moment, but maybe one day it will get bigger. And I also need to learn how to properly manage the Discord server. So this way I will actually be able to interact more with people out there. And also the plan for today is to add some like burned. Do I have it somewhere in here? No, no, yes. I wanted to add this like burnt texture to this guy, so it will look that he has been burnt and that he has some like tissue still hanging on him, and that was subjected to a really high temperatures and stuff like this. So everything that is kind of like dry, I will try to apply today. And I really like the details, like the veins, as you can see in here, and this like, I don't even know how to say it, rough texture that appears on a forehead, for example. So I guess since this is like a really rough texture, I could actually take like a really rough pencil, or maybe even not pencil but brush, maybe like even make a bigger one, slightly warp it to the shape of a skull, since if you want your textures to look nice and sexy, then you need to warp them too, because the texture will also follow the shape of a geometry. And on top of this, to paint the highlights, so it will kind of look like there are things that are slightly above, and the small openings will also cast a small shadow underneath them, so it will give this like 3D feeling to it, hopefully. And if the texture is too heavy, this is why I did it on a separate layer, so I can always like remove it and adjust it without like destroying the entire painting. And this is also a really neat trick. If you are not sure about the change that you are going to make, always make like important changes on the separate layers, because a lot of people tend to forget about it, and especially beginners, they sometimes think that you need to work on like a single layer, which is not true. If you feel like working on 5 layers or something like this, then it is completely fine. I need to move the teeth a bit lower, especially since this is like a fantasy creature in a sense, and this is from Diablo. I don't necessarily want the anatomy to be like 100% perfect. If I feel that, for example, the teeth need to be a bit bigger, or the jaw needs to be like distorted in some sort of a way to make it look creepier, I will do just this. But I don't want to go into like really heavy stylization, so this way it will look a little bit more like realistic, because I wanted to go with every single thing that I was going to do for this challenge with this more like kinda ink type of a look to it. But at some point I decided this is like not really something that I really enjoy, and because of this I dropped this idea of making it like ink type of a challenge, and I decided to just render it nicely, which much better fits the goals that I currently have. So yeah. And also from time to time it's good to like just duplicate the layer that you are working on, so you can like turn it on and off and see the progression that you had made. Because if you are painting, sometimes if you are like refining the details, it's really easy to forget on like what you have achieved, like the current day, and after finishing everything you might not see that a lot of things changed. So it's always a good idea to keep the progress on the separate layer. This way you will be able to see how it progressed. Here a bit of a bottom part of a jaw should be visible, and I kind of want it to look like there's still like some skin attached to this creature, so I'm adding some sort of like a lip or something like this that will blend into the entire forms. I feel this is like a nice thing to have in here. And regarding teeth, also recently my wisdom tooth decided to like get out after God knows how many years, and I think I said about it in the previous stream, but it just came out completely and it stopped hurting, which is nice. So now I have like a one wisdom tooth because the one got removed. So now hopefully I'm a bit smarter or something like this. I hope it does affect the intelligence. And I want this shape in here, so it will nicely make the thing in here a little bit more interesting. Also, this is a really neat trick that I have learned and heard from many different artists. If you want your painting to instantly look better, just give the outline something to, like, just make the outline interesting, like the silhouette. So, for example, in here, instead of like making a skull like this, and this is also looks kind of okay, it's better to make it like, let's say like this, and then something will be like protruding, the eyes will be like protruding, so the shape, I should draw it with a black. Whoa, I should not do this. I should do this black. So the shape will be like a little bit more developed and more things will happen on it. So it's not like a really single line. There's like stuff happening around it, which is kind of cool if you really want to make the thing much more interesting. It's not always easy to do, but this is like a really simplified thing that just works. It just works nicely. So yeah, let me add more texture to the body. Actually, a good thing with the texture is to just press it with a mouse, because then you get like instantly 100% opacity, and then you can like adjust it. So I think it's much easier to do something like this, because I also want the small shadows to appear, the small shapes to appear on the chest. Making a nice geometry is a one thing, but making it interesting, like the surface to be interesting, is a different story. So I will try to do just this. Yeah, I think it looks kinda okay-ish. And also, if anyone wants to like randomize the next monster, feel free to like choose a letter from here. The three are already picked, so like C7, F2, and G3, G5 are in the line. But if you want to get like your own randomized thing, feel free to write a letter or to just slide back to this part of the video and see what is free. So you could like pick it and could proceed with randomizing things. And also today I'm extremely sore after going to the gym with a friend of mine. We were doing some legs and we were doing some chest, and we are doing currently a Calgary barbell program. Maybe someone knows Briz Kravchik, I believe is his name. And the funny thing with this training is that I have tried to finish it 4 times already, and because of Corona, I was not able to. Every single time when I was going near to the end of it, the new wave started and the new lockdown started, and it was actually impossible to finish. So now we are like 6 weeks out before we finish the training. So if in the next 6 weeks there will be another lockdown, like a huge lockdown, then it's the fault of this program. Then this is single-handedly responsible for COVID situation and everything. or it will simply mean that the program is cursed and it's impossible to like finish it. So yeah. And also if anyone is like, I need to rotate it slightly. Also if anyone is like drawing or whatever, feel free to do exactly the same thing. One artist wrote to me that he is doing the Heroes of Might and Magic 3 redesigns, Roman Michaliska. And yeah, also feel free to mute me and just draw alongside with me. This is also completely fine. Usually if I explain something that is at least a bit important, then I will start drawing something on the side. So just maybe unmute me then. Maybe you will learn something new. Or maybe I will just say something that you didn't know about. And for the spine, because the spine is a bit complex type of a thing. Oh, I like this, how this looks like. Whoops. It kind of looks like some sort of a sickness that turned the muscles into bone. But it fits to what I want to do with it. Because I have not been studying the spine that much. I mean, I get the general idea on how it goes, but I have no idea of the details with it. And with stuff like this, I don't really care about making it like 100% anatomically correct in terms of like the amount of vertebra and like everything, because it just does not matter that much in this case. As long as you will see like something that is relatively normal in terms of the amount of vertebra, then it just makes sense. And also if you are drawing something like a spine, because this is like a thing that is a really common mistake, remember that the spine like has this S curve, and in here we have like this part, and in here we have the pelvis and everything, but there is like this curvature to it, and that this, like each vertebra, is basically like a small cylinder that is like following this line. And a cylinder looks like this, more or less. And just remember, when you are like drawing the spine, it's basically made of like a lot of small cylinders together. So just remember to keep it in mind, because a lot of people tend to forget about it, that this is a geometry. And if you are not sure how to draw a cylinder, just remember that this is a long axis. In here also, this is a long axis, so it's like the longest line that go through the middle of a cylinder. And the short axis is like, I need to change a different color, maybe green one, yeah. And the short axis has like 90 degrees to the long axis, always go through the middle, and it also dictates the direction of the cylinder. So if the vertebra like change the direction, then the ellipsis angle also will change. So for example, if you draw something like this, then this is like not a cylinder, but from a side it's something like this. It is like a cut cylinder. Proper cylinder will have the short axis in the direction of the thing. So just keep it in mind, because in here, for example, if I'm going to draw this, I need to remember that the angle will change like somewhere in here, because I'm starting to see the like, let me go back to this drawing, because I have like my like horizon line more or less in here. So from here I see it like from the below, and in here I see it from the top. So the angle will need to change, but not that much. I just want the shape to be visible. And this is pretty much all. And I really like this part that it connects to the spine. I think it looks really neat. That even though the ribs are disconnected from like the sternum, I like how it is connected to the back. So maybe like a skin melted on the back of this guy and created this like some sort of a shell, however to call it. And it nicely adds a bit more of a volume to it, because the problem that I usually have with skeletons and everything is that they kind of lack volume. Like everything is really thin and it's relatively hard to draw them in an interesting manner because they are just thin. Nothing interesting is happening on them usually. So if you can increase the volume of them, then it is really a nice thing to do. And there are also those bones that are protruding in here. And also in here, as you can see, it's not like a perfect line. Like the vertebrae also have, I do believe these are vertebrae, they also have like their own shape. So it's good to remember that. You don't need to be like extremely perfect with it, especially if you are drawing a skeleton that is like basically destroyed or whatever. So yeah. And drawing skeletons is always fun. It's like every single artist that wants to like be a fantasy artist or something along those lines at some point will draw some sort of a skeleton monster or some sort of an undead monster or something like this. So it's good to know how to draw a skeleton. I remember when I was drawing a skeleton from the Glenn Fabry book, I believe, a book for fantasy artists, and he had this like really nice chart for drawing skeleton and everything. And there was this saying that if you cannot draw a skeleton, there's no way you will be able to draw a human body. And it is kind of true, because for many years I have been trying to like learn how to draw a skeleton, but never put really like tons of effort into it. And now I am quite okay with monsters, but in terms of like rendering human forms, I kind of suck at it. So it kind of got back to me. If I could go back in time, I would slap my previous self to study harder certain topics. So the life would be easier now, but well, I didn't. So now life is a bit harder because of it. And I have to catch up with stuff that I do. I could also in here suggest that there's some like leftovers of deltoids and stuff like this. I feel the sternum should be a bit brighter, just a bit, to bring it out of the dark background. Yeah, and remember also, if you are making any holes in your like design, so for example like this one for example is a bad hole, because you can really see like it's really sitting on a high contrast place, so it's good to kinda organize them somehow. So you will have like a smaller holes, bigger holes, but try to be mindful where you are like piercing the silhouette, because it might affect the final outcome, and also it might cause the design to lose its point of interest, to lose its focal point, because you will, as again, you will put like a really huge gap, for example, in here. Now, because of the like local contrast, this hole is really like, it's really visible. So keep it in mind if you are doing something like this. And again, feel free to send anything if you would like to get a critique on. This should be just fine. Just not on Discord, because I turn off the Discord before I start streaming to avoid any notifications to appear whatsoever, so there are no constant like beeping and pinging and everything on in the speakers. So yeah. And now I'm basically going like from the top to the bottom, so most likely I will make like one pass that goes through the entire character from top to the bottom, and then I will make a fire, and then I will make like a next pass. So the entire character will be like nicely rendered without like skipping too much on like some areas. It's one of the things that is often like really ignored are, for example, the feet. I also don't want to like render them extremely like well. I guess these are really close to the thing that I will have in the end, but it's good to remember that stuff like this sometimes need a bit more attention. And for the belt, in here I want something a bit more saturated, because usually stuff like leather is relatively saturated. So by using a saturation, you can also nicely distinguish different materials, different material groups and everything. I kind of want this belt to be like a little bit more on the destroyed side of a finish, because this is like not a new belt, and this is like not a new skeleton, brand new skeleton. It's a bit dirty, a bit like destroyed, and a bit old, and it's also burning, so I don't even think it should have like really new looking accessories on it. I do think it should have some like holes and stuff in it. Let me continue rendering the main forms. Usually if I would draw something more meaty, in a sense that the shapes are just thicker, most likely I will separate the arm layer from the leg layer, because they are like overlapping in here now. But because these two shapes are like really thin, then I don't really feel the need to. Like I can just draw them two together, and later I will simply just use some sort of a like small shadow on, or a stronger contour line to distinguish the two parts. Same thing happens same things applies to the bow, because the bow is also important. The pelvic, and in here we kind of go to the hard area, because like the pelvic shape is relatively complex. It's not like a rocket science complex, but it is relatively complex. But in here I also wanted to have like a little bit more of the kind of a change of material, so it will be like kind of black mixed with the red. So I will need to figure out how to like render it nicely. And the only thing that I will cut out from here to be on a separate layer is a quiver, because it's a relatively big shape and it's at the moment too dark, and I kind of want to have a little bit more control with it, so how the aerial perspective works on it. So I can like lighten up the values on the quiver, so it will look more like that it is in the background, like that is further away. And it will also increase the readability of the entire piece. So if you are not sure how to do it, the easiest way is to just grab the like light color from a background and just slightly, really slightly paint it on the object. The general like rule of thumb is the things that are in the background are a bit paler, because the the real perspective. This is like the main reason, and the second reason is that we want to be able to distinguish like main shapes. I do have a pelvis reference on my wall hanging, so I will be looking at it from time to time. Also, this is a really nice thing that I found out like really long time ago. If you are like struggling with anatomy or whatever like this, just print some like anatomical schemes onto your and just place them next to like your working place. So this way I basically, when I need to see how a certain body part looks like or what is the muscle group, I just take a peek on my wall and I have everything in here. So like a small cheat sheet there. And also, if you're rendering, always be mindful of the fact where your light source is coming from. So you will be able to properly lit the geometry. I have no idea if I'm doing it properly. I'm taking an educated guess. I think it's fine, more or less. The spine is a bit off, I feel. But later I will ask someone who like knows better about shapes and geometry and everything. So I will see how and where I messed up this guy. And in here I will make the forearm slightly shorter, just disconnect the tangent line. So the finger and the hand is not tangent anymore to the spine, to the body. It's not a huge problem, but if you can increase readability without like sacrificing too much, then it's better to do something like this. Because this way you make a piece that just looks nicer. Basically by the cost of nothing. And sometimes even if you are like drawing from a photo, if you are like using a proper reference and you are going to like make a carbon copy of it, so you just want to study the shit out of it, sometimes remember it's better to change and reorganize some things on your references, like on your painting from the reference. You don't really need to be like 100% accurate with it. And usually you will even need to do something like this, so the final product, like the final study, just looks more interesting, because something is drawn from the nature does not mean it is like perfect representation of the object, because you can always like analyze it and you can I am missing the word, and you can interpret it. Interpretation. You can make your own interpretation of it. So also this is important. If you are using photos, remember you can like change stuff in them. It's not like it's not illegal to do so. So yeah, remember about it. I really like those structures. Those things are neat, because it does not look like, I mean, it does look like a bone, but it has this like really cool ass texture on it. Really nicely adds the volume. And it fits again to the topic of something that is burnt. Because I feel like it looks kind of like wood. I can only imagine how bad this hurt if your bones and your muscles and your tissue does something like this. And wow, I forgot about the pronation supination type of a thing, because there will be like two bones in here. This is why this is like a bit wider. Let me only find the reference for it. because this is like the rotation that was always giving me some troubles, because there's like well, this shape in the elbow, and then you have like the small bone, and this bone goes small in here, and this bone goes like big in here if you are like pronating everything. So this is like this X type of a shape, and this one goes above this one in a pronation. So in here we'll have like a thumb on the inside. And even though this is not like perfect rendition of an arm, I kind of want to include it, so you still will be able to see what this is doing. So maybe there should be, I don't know, it won't even be visible. So now what I want to make is I want to add a bit of this like texture to it. So it has like this elements that are like sticking out, that are like adding the mass, and that are basically making the outline of the design a little bit more interesting, because something is happening with it, and I think this something is just cool and makes sense, or at least visually it makes sense for me, for something like this to appear on the arm of a burnt skeleton. Also a really nice thing with the colors, you can see that the thing in light, you cannot see the color picker, unfortunately, but something like this, the color in the light has like 23% of saturation, and the color in the shadow in here, like in the deepest part, has actually 99% of saturation. So the deepest shadow in here basically goes to 100% saturation. So if you are wondering how to make your paintings nicer, just the deep shadows can be like really saturated. Also saturated colors give much deeper look to what you are painting. So for example, in the chest area, my darks are relatively desaturated, but if I like make a proper red in here, as you can see, it appears to be darker. It just appears to be like fuller. So I will go to like almost pure black and almost 100% red. So like the insides are like red, because sunlight is reflecting from the ribs that are red, and they basically become red light source. So the bounce light is like red, and if something is red and you shine a red thing onto it, then the red is much more prominent. The red will appear as more red, which is a nice thing to have. And by mixing like heavily saturated areas with like lightly saturated areas, you can create some sort of a noise, and this noise will make the entire thing look much more believable. Because even in real life, when we are looking at something, we usually tend to see quite a lot of noise. Like everything is kinda like noisy all the time. If we do look at something. I'm not really happy with like this shape in here. I think I will leave it. Definitely I will need to work a bit more on the face, because the face is like the most important part of the design. You can disagree, but this is how it is. We always look first at the face, and this is like the area that requires usually the most work if you want to make your design nice and interesting. Does any of those guys has hands? It does not. So I will need to cheat a bit on this one. Because again, hands are something that is just hard to draw. No matter how much you practice it, they are just hard. And they are really subtle. So if you're like an archer, the pose if you're an archer, if you're drawing like the pose of the archery stance for the hand, the gesture of the archery pose, there are a lot of like things that are happening in here at the same time. There's a lot of tension, and sometimes it's just hard to imagine everything that is happening on the thing that you are going to draw. And this is why like using references is crucial, because a reference will just provide you with the info that you actually need. So yeah, this guy will have something like this, more or less. Because I want the finger to hold the string. I guess it's even called the bowstring. In Polish language it's called cięciwa, which is kind of an interesting word. Cięciwa, the line on the bone. In English I don't think it has like a professional name other than a bowstring, but I might be wrong. Later I will need to check this out to check if I am telling the truth. Also, a cool thing with undeads is if you are painting them, you can take some liberties. I think this is the proper expression, I'm not sure, and not be extremely accurate with everything, because again, like we have the general idea on how the skeleton looks like, but taking the fact that there are so many different peoples in the entire world, that there are so many different proportions and everything, it's really hard to say that this bone or this bone looks exactly like this. So even though you will like most likely lie a bit about the shapes and everything, there is still like a huge probability that you will be like correct with the guesses. Like you can make an educated guess based on the like imagination, in this case at least, I think. And also for stuff like this, because some people might be interested in the brushes, does not really care. Just as you have seen, I have used like a really heavily textured brush to add this coal type of a texture to the painting. So just use whatever brushes that you have and try to use them to like your advantage. There's like no magic brush that will help you if you are lacking like the fundamentals, as I am lacking a lot of fundamentals, so I need to like work on them, because fundamentals are the most important thing in art. Can agree with it or not, but this is how it is. I kinda also like the idea of him having all the guts like torn outside. I think it would look neat. It more than will be like a zombie archer or something like that, not a skeleton archer, but I like the idea. The only thing that I might add in terms of like a design to this guy, to this fella, is some leather straps or something like this. I also like. Let me find the whole reference. Skeleton. Do I have something like this? So I wonder if there's maybe a photo of this guy, but with the legs visible. And also this photo is really cool and creepy. This is a bone cancer. You can see how how like terrifying it looks like. It looks kind of melted together, which is like again a good reference. This is kind of something that I wanted to have him have. If this is like a proper way of saying it, but and by any means I don't think cancer is cool. I just think it looks interesting. And it looks extremely fucking painful too. This is like the only thing that I found with the leg. Looks interesting. The shape is a bit on the weirder side. So I think I will add a bit more mass to it. So I kinda like the idea of the monster having something like this. And also this is one of the things that was always kinda like weird for me, because a lot of people like creepy stuff. They like cool looking monsters and everything. But also when I like even started learning art and just started even gathering my own references and trying to come up with some different ideas about some different monsters, you can really make tons of great designs just by like kind of utilizing the different like the word, not illnesses, different like mutations and I forgot the word again. Yeah, I think you get the point. But I was always wondering, like, if someone is like really having a really bad disease that sometimes that can be fatal, because stuff like this usually is fatal, fatal. How the person like will feel while seeing like a monster kind of associated with this type of disease or whatever, however to call it. Like this is like one of the things, like to not offend anyone, I guess. I'm not really huge on this like don't offend me and everything and I'm triggered and I'm offended type of a movement. But I wonder how it must feel for someone with like a disease like this. And it's also kind of weird to say that a disease looks cool. Like, again, visually it might be interesting, but it's hard to say it's cool. It's really easily could be like misinterpreted by someone. So I think if you are doing any type of like redesigns that will have some sort of that will use some sort of a like existing deformation, I think it's good to be really honest and obvious with the fact that you don't feel that this illness is cool. And also I'm currently like painting on top of the bow, because like the bow will be the last thing that I will do. Cool part with the bows is that they are like extremely simple to paint. It's just basically like a really simple geometry. It does not take a scientist to paint a bow or to draw a bow. It's just like a curvature that is kind of tricky, because it's not like it's easy to draw them like without any type of a perspective, but in perspective sometimes curves tend to look weird. So if you are like later I will show you also how to deal with like weird angles and everything. And also again, to make the shapes a bit more interesting and fun, it's good to take like a really saturated color of what you already have on your painting, and to just add some like seemingly random splashes of this color in some different places, especially in the shadows, because it will make the shadows look more vibrant, and vibrant looking shadows are cool. They're like neat to have. So don't be afraid to use saturated colors. Also, this is one of the biggest things in terms of the beginner artists, like that their paintings usually look really moody. Like they kind of look almost dirty in a sense, and like or washed out. Like you would take a water and just washed out all the colors. Usually it's because people at the beginning forget that usually this is like not the universal rule, but this is like a huge simplification, but it works. Usually the darker you go into the shadow, the more saturated it should be. So for example, for the leg in here, even though it's not really visible from the back because of all the context of the environment, the bone will be like really saturated. Like it will be almost blue, like completely blue. So it's good to have it in mind that stuff like this happen. And also like a really simple reasoning why it works like this is because like if you have any type of a surface that is like, that has color on it, and you will shine a light to it, the light kinda adds to the surface, like it adds its color to the surface. And if you are like lighting up a colorful surface with a white light, then you basically add white color. Like white is not color, but you get the idea. You basically add the white color to the mix. That makes the entire thing like desaturated, a bit more desaturated, because you are like introducing white hue to the thing that you have. And as you can see, the fit in here is not really detailed, but fortunately I found this reference that has almost exactly the same placement of a fit. And this is why you use references, because then you don't need to reinvent the wheel. You can simply just utilize the things that you already have, which is cool. And I need to sit a bit more straight so my back won't like explode. But again, since the feet is relatively far away from the focal point, I don't need to like render it that much. I will just like remove the outline so there's no like heavy black lines around. I will make sure that it interacts with the ground somehow, but you don't actually need to paint everything perfectly, because a lot of people will just like take one small glance at feet. Only if something will feel like really wrong with them, then they might draw attention. But the further away something is from your focal point, the less time you need to like spend on it to like polish it. Of course you could, I could like sit for like next 10 hours or so and like construct the perfect foot, or however to say it, and to like render it to the limits, but this is like not a thing that I'm willing to do. It will kind of miss the point. I kind of want to keep it more casual with those type of things, but usually removing the outline is more than enough for you to make the thing look interesting. Not interesting, I mean also interesting, but to make it look nicer or more believable, because the contour in real life does not exist. We see everything by the shape of it. Yeah, basically with a shape. So we need to just be aware of this fact. If the silhouette is good, then the thing will read nicely. But if we have like a really heavy outline while working on it, then it will look odd. So again, outlines do not really appear. So here, some longer fingers. toes, I guess. I don't even know if the on foot you have fingers like in English language, or is there like a professional word for it? I guess toe is like the biggest, the big one. I don't remember if the toes are like all fingers that are on a foot, feet. This is plural. Foot is singular. And the kneecap. Always when I'm drawing a skeleton, I wonder if I should add the kneecap or I shouldn't, because this is like a loose bone. It's not like it is in there for like forever. It's basically like attached by the ligaments and everything. So I always wonder if I draw a skeleton, if I should give him like, or her, a kneecap, because it's like I can imagine it falling like really quickly. And I only need to find a reference for a hand, or I can take my own reference, which arm it is. Wait, I need to see. Not this would be like this one. So yeah, I need to stand up and pose arm. Maybe like holding a phone. Make it easier. Now, what has the similar shape? I guess some pants. This is the only thing that I have. Let's move in. Should be good enough. Whoops. It's not like the best reference out there, but it gives enough information to actually start doing something. The pose is a bit different, but right off the bat I can see that I need to move this bone a bit higher. This is also kind of cool perspective for the arm, and I can see that I can like remove it like this, the plane, the arm, the mass, thumb, finger, a bit longer. Yeah, and the bow will go like in here. Most likely this hand will later get overpainting by someone who knows this craft a bit better than I do. Because if there is anything that I usually need help with, this is a hand gesture. Shit's hard. Pose like this is relatively easy, but the interaction of hand with something usually is really tricky. Especially since on a photo you can like see you can't see like a almost clear distinction between fingers and everything, but they make sense because you expect them to make sense because this is like a photo. And in a painting it's sometimes hard to emulate the same feeling for it. I guess I will make it a bit lower. Force the entire bow to be a bit, to have a bit different angle. And this cool muscle in here. I do believe this is muscle. Also, a cool idea for a monster, for like a skeleton archer, would be if they would, like, because as I said previously on a previous stream, I can imagine the skeletons having some problems with holding stuff because they they lack meat on their hands. So if they will just, if someone, I don't know, the necromancer or whoever, like, raises them from the dead, uh, to just tie the stuff to their hands. So you would have like a skeleton with a bow that is like tied to his arm, and he cannot like drop it, or you will have like an axe and it will be like permanently tied to his arms, to his hands, because he can't drop it, because if not for like tight, like tying it in, it would drop the object that it is holding. It's a relatively interesting idea to explore in the future. Also, a funny thing about skeletons is that the typical skeleton of a human weighs around like 3 kilograms or something like this. It's like really small. I always thought they are like heavier. I don't know, like 10 kilograms or something like this. Turns out a skeleton is extremely light. So if you are fighting a skeleton in your, I don't know, D&D campaign, without any problems whatsoever, you should be able to like just pick it up and just swing with it and just throw it somewhere, because they are just extremely light. And this is normal. I thought for the first time, because when I once bought this me scale that tells you what and how, like, what is your body composition, it told me that the skeleton is like 3.2 kilograms or 3.5 or something like this, and I was like, what? It's a bit low, I guess. And then I checked, and it's really hard to actually go above this number. So now I don't know if it like weighs the skeleton without any blood in it. I guess it does, because skeleton with blood in it, I think, would be a bit heavier. Knows. Okay. And for the bow, the only thing that I pretty much need to make is to like make the edge a bit more like clear, because the light will like hit the edge of a bow. I don't even need to go with it through the entire thing, and just maybe some bounce light will like lit the bottom part of a bow. But again, since this is like a cheap as unit, it is using a cheap as bow, and because of this, it's not like going to have the best bow out there. I am all for like a cool equipment, but weak, cheap monsters use weak, cheap equipment. End of a story. Hello. Boy cakes. This is a first comment during the hour of talking. Yay, now the talking will be much easier. Now I have something to like base like the talk off too. Yeah, and I'm glad you're enjoying it. I won't say I'm trying my best, but I am trying my okay to be at least a bit entertaining. Hello, Roman. I also wonder how long I will be able to stream like for like without stopping whatsoever. One day I will need to test it. This is one of the things. Okay, actually, like I remember when I started kind of learning about the body in terms of like what is what and how some stuff works, I was like, wow, this is kind of interesting. And also recently I was watching the Kurzgesagt on YouTube about the about the immunological system immune system, I guess. And supposedly it is the most complex system in the entire like world. Like nothing is more complex biologically than our like uh, immune system. This is like the most complex stuff out there. Nothing can like top this. It's just so complex. Very complex module. Nice. I do think I will manage to maybe even finish this guy on this stream, so not much left is to be done. I mean, the bow is like, simple as hell. The quiver maybe will take some time, but still it won't be that long. I just need to like destroy it and do some stuff, and then I will add some particles. I do wonder if I will work on the environment that much. I actually might add some logs and stuff like this, and then later blur it. So, but again, if I will blur it, it won't take a really long period of time. So possibly I will like randomize also the next monster today. And I promise if the next monster will be a skeleton, I am not streaming more. I'm done with streaming them. And still, there's a huge chance this will be a skeleton. If I will ever make any sort of a game, fantasy or whatever, it won't have any skeletons in it. Necromancy will be forbidden. If you use necromancy in a game that I will develop, straight to jail. If you are like a black mage, straight to jail. You want to rise the dead, straight to the jail. Or if I would hire ever anyone to like design stuff and they will say they want to design a skeleton, I will give them like 100% creative freedom for it. I will just say that cool, I don't want to see it. Yeah. Love and hate relationship with skeletons. And I guess I'm just saying it, like in the end, if it will be a next skeleton, I will be like, oh, okay, cool. This is also a cool training to like be patient, to train patience. This is like a virtue that is really often lacking. And even recently I have been talking with Naimul, and he actually told me, this is actually extremely interesting. Now I forgot about it. Now let me find it. Have I turned off? Yeah, I turned off the Skype. Because everybody knows this artist Ruan Jia, and he told me that he asked him like how to improve, like what is the best way to improve. And Ruan Jia supposedly told Naimul that a really good way to practice is to actually give me a second, is to actually spend like 100 hours on one study, on one piece. So, and he sent me the Ruan Jia painting, the 100 hour study of his to like improve the quality. And this is the painting done by Ruan Jia. This is a painting. This is the craziest part. Like you can see in here that this is painted, or in here. And he said that if you want to improve, you need to make like at least one study like this, and it took him like 100 hours or something like this. It's extremely crazy, and if anyone does not know Ruan Jia, I hope this is his, and I hope he said it. I hope I'm not like lying right now. I don't think Naimul would lie to me, because there is no reason for him to do so, but you can see the quality it is needed to be on another level. So also this is one of the things that I really wanted to do, maybe on a stream even, to spend like 100 hours on one piece, like one study or one whatever. Most likely a study, because I cannot imagine sitting for like 100 hours and trying to figure something out. Most likely I will like take a really complex object and with a lot of shit on it, and I will just try to study the shit out of it. So maybe like a really complex 3D render of an height or whatever. And I will see how it will go. But yeah, This is absolutely crazy. Yeah, this is also true. He is like, he is not, like, I mean, he used to be human. Now I don't think with the current skill set that he still is, but it is crazy. But true, and this is regarding the patience. So I do believe even if I will randomize the next skeleton, this will be like a really good step to achieve another level of patience, to be able to like continue working no matter what. So yeah. Yeah. Mm, fuck. I mean, traditional, to do traditional for like 20-30 hours, I do believe it's much easier to than digital 24-30 hours, because in traditional medias there are like limits that you can have, like you cannot just zoom in and increase the dimensions of a paper. It's like impossible. It's just about a slow and methodical thing. In Photoshop, the problem is that you can always almost zoom in. Like I can go like this close. This is like 1000% zoom in, and I could like feel the details within like 1000% zoom. So, and I mean that the changes that I have done right now are like almost invisible, but I know this would add up. So, but about the studying, some like making study like this on a stream, I do believe it would be the most boring stream on earth ever done. Like usually I'm streaming for around 2 hours, like vast majority of the times. Most of the streams are 2 hours. Imagine having like 50 episodes of like one thing, like one painting. I couldn't imagine how boring it would be. Maybe it will go viral because how ridiculous just it sounds. Like part 50 of 50 of like rendering, I don't know, something, like copying something. But yeah. And back in the days even I was kinda in the camp of like, well, photorealism sucks. And you don't really need to make like those long ass 40-hour copies. Now I completely switched my mind. Even though in work I had some things that needed to be like extremely fucking polished, that just went high above the things that I am capable of, and I feel everybody should do like a really long time of a piece of a rendering to bring it to like the next level of finish, because it will like make professional life later much easier, because you will just know that you can sit on your ass and render the shit out of something, which is like apparently a skill that is really like demanded. I think this is the word. Really nicely to be seen, to say it as someone who, like, I don't know, hires people. Have no clue how to say it, but yeah. Okay, let's make a quiver. Let's find arrow weaver, some references. How do they look like? Because maybe there is some sort of a shape that I would like. There are some crazy quivers. So I want something basic, but not too basic. This one is fine. This one is nice. I like this one. And it's definitely more important than a box that I have like right now. Yeah, and this is also like the reason, because recently I was like, oh, maybe I will just go back to traditional medias and everything. And I started drawing and I was like, wait a minute, where is Control Z? Like, whoa, this is not fun. I don't have Control Z anymore. And I was like, ha, fun is over. So yeah, and also for stuff like this, don't mind if you just like change the perspective of a reference photo. It does not really matter that much. You will get like the general idea. As long as you understand the geometry of it, then it's fine. If you don't understand the geometry of it, then it's a bit less fine. But yeah, I like the thing that it is not like a box. I like that the cross section looks like this. This makes a lot of sense, especially if you are like a skeleton. I mean, I don't know why it makes sense if you are a skeleton, but the shape just makes sense for me. And this is also a thing that I said previously about the shapes. In here you can see I got this, and this shape. If I would move this like this, then I would get like a really long straight line, and it just looks odd because it blends together. There's like a no clear distinction between those two shapes. So if you can like differentiate an outline to make the entire thing a little bit more clear and readable, then just do it. Then it's a really nice thing to do. And this also allows me to make a little bit more interesting shape in here, in the crotch area. And the back of the quiver is okay-ish. So what I could do now, I will make this as an experiment. Actually, I have never done anything like this way. I will blend the, like, hide the background a bit. I will render it in a way like nothing is obstructing the geometry, like nothing is in front of it. I will just render it this way, and then I will put it back, and then I will cast a shadow on it. This actually sounds relatively smart. So if I do know from where do I have the light source, because I know it is like from the top, I kind of want it to be like brownish but burnt. Or no, I want it to be like black leather. So there we go. This is like the color that I'm going for. Great PNG file. Splendid PNG. So I'm kind of trying to like imagine how the light would interact with this form, and later I will just again paint it, because now I can add some texture to it. Actually, adding texture is like the easiest way to make something look nice in a sense, because now I have like a general texture of the object, and now I can go like with a new layer, take the same color I'm having in here, just increase, or I don't even have to increase it, the brightness of it, take a brush, select a screen, and this is like a no-brainer version of like making objects brighter. Now I'm kind of like making the local color brighter, which kind of means I'm adding light to it. And because, and also let me think on it. So the light source is, write it, white, is going like this. And the quiver in relation to the light source, if we were to view it from the side view, the quiver is like this, and this is like the angle of a light. So it means it will hit like in here. It wouldn't have a really strong highlight, I do believe. It would be in a light, but maybe the brightest, like in here, there will be like a core shadow on this line, because this is the area where the light like stops lighting the form. So like in this case, this area will be like a core shadow, more or less. So the darkest part. So I can imagine like the brightest part being somewhere like near here. So yeah, and then the edge of it. And because the light source is scattered and it's soft, I want also the quiver to have like a really soft shadow. So there is no crazy like sharp shadows happening. Everything should be soft. And I need to remember that this guy is an old quiver that most likely survived the fire. So it does not need to have like a perfect geometry to it. It can be, well, it can be like distorted a bit. And also because the belt part, like hardened part on the edge, is a bit darker material in here. So for example, I could say this is like a normal leather and the edge part is like darker leather. The value will be slightly different. So yeah, there will also be some bolts. For a bolt, a good idea is to actually like paint a black dot first, and then I will just add some light to it. Because when there's a situation where two objects next to each other catch the same line, do you take it and add shadow to one? Oh, wait. When there's a situation when two objects next to each other catch same light, do you take it and add shadow to one of them to make contrast so it won't be boring? I'm not sure if I understand the question. Like, I'm not sure if I understand it. I don't want to answer at the moment because I don't think I get it. Like if there are like two objects, let's say there's some space, here is some space. Like let's say you have like a box. Okay. Next to each other, so I will draw another box. Let's say a smaller box. Whoops. Okay. They catch same light, so we can say this is like the direction of a light and this is the angle of a light. So angle, direction. Take one of them to make contrast so it won't. No, the basic idea is if you have like the same, well, like we first need to understand like what will be in the shadow and what will be in the dark. So for example, we could say with like being 100% that this area is in the shadow and that this area is in the shadow. And if we would be like 100%, like if we would remove a lot of stuff that is happening, these two colors will be exactly the same because this is like in the shadow. Then we could say that this wall, this part is brighter because it is in the light, but it's not as bright as the top part because the light is not like directly lighting it. So from a side, if we have like a box and angle like this, this surface is more lit than like this surface, I would say. Because this is like a horizontal one, so more light, it catches more light than this one. Like, so the top part like should be brighter. So actually the color that we have in the background is relatively okay. Let me just add a different background to it. So we will go with something that is like quite neutral in gray. So this is like this. Of course, there are, I guess, some rules on how much it will like differ or something like this. But I don't think there's a need for you to like remember that if the light is like this strong and this strong, then the top will be like 20% brighter or something like this. This is like not the way of learning stuff, but the first thing is we can construct the shadow because the direction, the angle, this will be like the shadow on a ground. It will go on the, whoops. So let me just construct it nicely so it will be clear and visible. It will be easier for me to also explain it. So if this is like the direction, this is the angle, then this is the point of this shadow. This is the angle. This is the perspective. This is this line. So basically this thing is a shadow that we could see if not for this box. And if we have this box and these two shadows, like the shadow of this box do not go on this box. So this shadow of this guy will basically go like this. Well, we go like this. So now we can make a layer. Can make like a shadow layer, shadow thing. So this is like this, more or less. We can turn it off. And there's sometimes when I draw. Usually, yeah, because in this case, as you can see, we have like two identical boxes. So the stuff is like in real life, if the light is hitting like this area, like in here, it means there's a bit of a bounce light. So this part on the ground should be a bit brighter because it catches some like reflected light. The top part will be like darker because it catches less of the reflected light. So the bottom part will be brighter because like it gets more bounce light than the top part. So this is the first thing that you like need to be aware of if you are drawing like boxes, and you will see how much like the box in the background looks better from this one in the foreground if we like do this, or if we just, yeah, of course, let me just redo this on a separate layer so you will see what I mean. Just make this uniform. So if I make like a new layer, so it will catch a bit of this light from the ground. The bounce light of the ground will like make it a bit brighter. And this is the first thing. This part will also get a bit brighter, but remember, reflected light will never be stronger than the actual light source. This is like physically impossible. So this is the first thing. Remember that in here, the more shadow there is, the less bounce light there is. So this is the first thing. We could say the like corner closer to us should have a little bit more contrast because it's just closer to us. So the one that is further away, basically like looking from the top, this is closer. In here we have some air, and this one should be a little bit less saturated because there's a bit of more air, and in art we usually kinda make it a little bit more obvious. So this part will also be like darker and even more saturated than, for example, the corner in the right. And for the top part, because it's closer to us, this corner will be a bit brighter because it's just closer to us. And the further away we go from this point, the more normal it looks like. So this is like a brick or something like this. And if we want to increase the feeling of like distance between those two objects, we could do something like fake a bit of an aerial perspective, but we really need to be really delicate with it. So we can grab a bit of like this reflected light. So basically the color of the reflected light is gray, and we can add like a haze between the objects, like a really soft haze. So it will make the values, as you can see, go a bit more like this, and it helps us to like distinguish the objects from, well, yeah, from each other. So again, the same story can apply to like the smaller box. Why am I not painting? Oh, because the opacity is low. Yeah, so the same thing applies in here, but it should be in here a bit even brighter. So this part on the front should be a bit brighter, and the part on the back can be a bit even darker to increase the contrast because it is closer to us. So this is like the long story short. Short with it. Usually this is enough. In real life, you won't all like see this haze. It won't be like this strong. It will be a little bit more muted. But in art, we usually tend to make it a bit stronger so it just reads better. In the end, this is all that we need to to care about. And then also we have stuff like the shadow will be darker in here because the biggest local contrast. There will be some ambient occlusion happening, so maybe this is like the shadow that you are adding. So basically, if you like place one geometry next to the other, it just gets darker, and this is pretty much all. So in here the shadow is darker, and the further away it gets brighter because the bounce light is kind of lighting it up. And if you like start considering all the things together, then the thing that you are going to draw will just look like better, I would say. So the back part will be a bit darker because it's a little bit further away, and we want the things in here to have like the highest contrast, and also because like a part of a light is also reflecting from the object. The ground next to it should also be a bit brighter. So the ground in here will be a bit brighter, not much. It will be like a really subtle type of a thing, but it should be brighter, which also contributes to the feeling of depth and space. And the ground in the background, on the other hand, will be a bit darker, but really it will also be a really subtle thing. So like in here, we can have a bit of a darker ground. So yeah, so this way we basically will have like a really subtle gradient in a background, but it will make the entire thing read a bit better. So I think it does explain what you asked for, I guess, somehow. But yeah, for example, in here, as you can see, those values kind of mix together. Like if we go zoom back, then it kind of mixed together. So most likely, I would say I would just darken a bit this edge. So even though it's not like 100% correct, I want to make it a bit darker so it will appear like that it is in front of the thing behind it. Or maybe I will like just try to mute the back part. Oh yeah, I will add like an edge to the solid, because also there will be like a highlight, because in this case this is like the last thing. The edge will get like the highest amount of light, because this is like the edge. Some part of the edge will actually grab the light, so maybe in here I will need to add small edge. So yeah, this is basically how it works. And again, the highlight like closer to us will be a bit brighter because of the things. And yeah, but in art, if you like, I don't know, we'll add something like this in here, let's say. So of course shadow will look more or less like this. Then you will get like, of course, the highlight somewhere in here, and the side won't be that much in the light, and the side will be basically almost in the shadow. So yeah, maybe the shadow, yeah, just to simplify things, shadow will look a bit more like this. So let's say this is like this. And then if you want to make it a bit clearer, then you could like just select this part, and you could do something like this if you really feel a need to like increase the feeling of volume, that one thing is next to other, because you can kind of overdone it, but I get you get the idea. But usually there's no need to do something like this. Usually it looks good just the way it is. So yeah, this one have a highlight basically where the light source is. So yeah, something like this. This is like not a perfectly nicely rendered part, but I hope you get the idea. But the thing is, look how boring this looks like and how much more interesting it looks like. And if I remove this nose type of a thingy, if I add like those interactions with the environment. So it basically makes it more believable. Like you can feel it is sitting on the ground, and now it's not. Now it's like empty, and now it does. And the same thing, this is the one layer, yeah. And the same thing basically happens with everything that is in here. But of course, not everywhere I will remember of it, and not always I will use all the like reflected lights to like be clearly visible, because sometimes the reflected light is just too weak to actually affect the thing. There's also this thing that is called Fresnel, and the index of refraction, IOR, that basically tells you at what angle what surface becomes reflective. So what it does, the easiest way to explain it, sometimes if you just sit in a room and there is like a really strong light, the panels that you see, like from the, if you are looking down, the panels are like completely in a color of a panel. But if the panels are like further away from you, then they look like they are white, basically. And this is the index of refraction, I believe, IOR type of a thing, or that it is related to it. And it basically tells you, as I said, at what angle the surface becomes white. So let me just search for it. Index of refraction. Object. Maybe there's like a photo of it. So it has to do something with the angle of the light that is reflecting from the thing. But daylight room. Yeah, so I you can see it. Okay, this is not the best example, but run a sunny day, maybe wrote in a sunny day will be a better example. Sometimes also photo. Yeah, so basically just do like a simple experiment. If I just take my tablet and look at it from the top, like from the top, it is colored like a tablet. But if I look at this like at a really like steep angle, I can actually see the screen reflecting in it, and it's because of the angle that it's like reflecting from it. So yeah, not a rocket. I mean, this is a bit like it starts to be a rocket science, but if you would just observe it and be aware of the fact that something like this happens, then adding, for example, rim lights is much easier, because you will actually understand, or you will be able to like predict what will happen with the stuff like this. But okay, going back to this guy, I did a quiver. I want it to be a bit darker. This is the layer for the quiver. I want it to be, this is not the layer, this is the layer. I want it to be a bit darker. And now I will move it well under the skeleton. I will remove the excess things. I will slightly rotate it. Now I will make the top part a bit darker. So I'll make the top part a bit, not darker, but more contrasty. So let me overlay it. And the bottom part a bit darker, because it's a bit further away from us, or further away from the viewer. So as you can see, this is a really subtle thing, but it brings the attention to the top. And now I can add some aerial perspective to it, but again, a really subtle aerial perspective. So I take the color of the fog and I just really slightly add it to the wrong layer. and I just really slightly touch it. So this way, the higher contrast on the arm in here have actually opportunity to like shine. So if I would just overlay it, will make the hand much darker. And I will make this layer to ignore the bright parts. Now you can see, if can I link those layers and actually turn them off at the same time? No. But now you can see, let me take a screenshot of it actually. Well, this is one version. Print screen. And this is this version. So now, what? Zooming with the mouse does not work. Now you can see how readability changes in those two examples. So the left one is clearly much more like readable because there is a higher contrast on a foreground, like on a hand, and this one has like worse readability because the contrast are like all over the place. And even if we like go to the black and white type of a thing, now you can see this is much darker and you can clearly see the shape and it's readable. In here it basically blends together, so if you squint your eyes, in here you can still see the shape, in here it basically blends into like one mass. And if you're like painting, you need to be aware, like at least aware of the fact that something like this is happening. But sometimes it's really hard to actually apply it everywhere because you also need to remember that it needs to be like coherent throughout the entire thing. So for example, in here, to make it even more readable, I should add a little bit more fog to the background because I want the quiver to actually be visible. And on the quiver again, I would need to like make it a bit darker, like on the bottom part, so it will actually like read nicely. So there are like fuckload of different things that you need to be aware of, and the more like you kind of study this topic, the more obvious it kind of gets, like the better you are at remembering it. And yeah, and now because I also know that here is like the ass of the skeleton, here is the ass, and I imagine the quiver being kind of like this, and that his legs are like kind of like, well, his legs are kind of like this, and the light source is from like this. Now I know that this middle part of a quiver will be like in the shadow, and because there's like a lot of stuff happening, like there's a lot of stuff going on in here, I just took some darker color, just more or less try to draw a shadow of a skeleton on a quiver, because I can imagine it is like casting a shadow on it. Not on the bottom part though. I will like reduce the multiply opacity, so it will be a bit more subtle. And also now I will like remove the shadow from the bottom part, so the cast shadow should be a bit darker. Yeah, and the bottom part will be slightly lighter, so I will like add layer with it to the render. Yeah, this part, and I can imagine like the hand kind of like casting a shadow on it, but I need to remember also the shadow needs to be like relatively light, soft, because of the scattered light source. So maybe there will be like a hole in here of the pelvis. This is actually looks relatively okay if I add it here, because now as you can see this eye in the pelvic area reads a bit better. But yeah, without shadow, with a shadow. Now you can feel the interaction between the two objects. And now when I like have the, I would say, relatively solid base for it, now I can kind of like continue on rendering it. So yeah. And the way I am adding belt to it, the belt that I have done, does not make tons of sense. But since this is like a skeleton and it's undead, and most likely the equipment of the skeleton is not like the highest quality, then maybe it is like a really ready-made type of a solution. So maybe it is just connected like this to him. Let me also search for like weaver belt, because I do feel this belt. Yeah, yeah, because it seems they have like, well, this is a nice shape relatively. This is a, well, so there is something like this. And because my skeleton is using like a cheapest version of a quiver, I don't know if it makes a lot of sense, but I also don't think that he would have anything to say regarding this topic. Maybe it should actually go to like this point. No, I like it here. So I wanted also to add some like metal parts to the belt. But yeah, just let me add them. Not necessarily this will make a lot of sense in terms of like being a thing that makes any sense whatsoever. But in this case, I don't really feel like thinking too much on how it actually should be mounted. I will just kind of bolt it to the quiver, because again, this is like a skeleton, so he does not need to have like a perfect gear. So maybe I like the idea of this thing going like this. And in here, wait, of this belt going like this from here, and actually going through the pelvis. I have no idea how it, like someone would have to like mount it to him, or nah, this is stupid. Like someone would have to like actually make the skeleton wear it this way. It does not make any sense. I can imagine if this is like a skeleton that purposefully wore a quiver, then he had to like find it and just put it on himself. Of course, he would have to have like the thinking capabilities, or at least a clear order to do so, but yeah, done too many clicks and I'm missing the shortcuts. There will be also this bone in here. It's about to go like here and here. So yeah, this will be like somehow mounted to him. But usually this thing would hang around, like these two belts will hang around a belt on his waist, but since he has no waist, I will just kind of fake it. There's a belt like in here. Maybe there will be like a metal circle or like for the quiver, so yeah. Yeah, I mean it is interesting way of mounting the quiver, but not in this case. In this case, this is like a casual monster just wearing shit on top of it, so I do think it should maintain some like logic behind it. But sometimes, as far as I know, some artists actually do stuff like this that they make purposefully. Dumb design in a sense. So like a really obvious mistake, like an extremely obvious mistake, especially on Instagram, because then people are more likely to point out the thing that is incorrect, that is just wrong. And if anyone is like pointing something out, it means he or she is commenting. And if someone is commenting, it makes the engagements go brr. And if the engagements go brr, then there is a huge chance that the post will get more likes. Yeah, now when I'm looking at it, the way I mounted the thing does not make any sense whatsoever, but fuck it. No, I don't care that much. I will just need to study this topic so I wouldn't have to think about it next time. And the arrows, this quiver is actually quite big. As far as I see the other quivers, they usually are about the length of the thigh. Oh yeah, okay, this is okay. And arrows, I needed to see how much they protrude. And for the arrows, I will simply just go with like a really normal, like 100 opacity brush. I will just draw some like lines. Some arrows can be much longer, some can be like shorter. The thing that I also want to adjust is that the quiver is a bit thinner. So it's not as thick. So it would fit less arrows. Less arrows means less painting. And I mean, the only way for me to actually get likes, like the recent post that I have made was the first one where I actually got a, okay, maybe not a huge engagement, but where hashtags did something. Usually from the hashtags that I upload, I get like, I don't know, 5 impressions from hashtags, and I have no idea why. But recently the skeleton that I did had much less impressions from like home screen, but it had like 600 expressions from hashtags, which like never happened before. But again, the final effect was the same because it cut down on the impressions from the home screen. What it's like weird, but yeah. So in the end, the Instagram won, but I don't know. And the only way that I usually get likes is when some sort of a like creatures and monsters type of a fan page posts my stuff and tags me in it. This is like the only way that I can make any likes. Not that it matters that much, but I will be honest, I like likes, so receiving likes is nice. Artists usually needs validation for their art, and there's nothing wrong, in my opinion, in being happy that you get likes. It never should be like the priority of the artwork of the art that you are doing, but because that way you might like not actually make art, but you might try to just master social media. If there is anything that I have learned in the like recent years, if you are doing nice job and if your paintings are good, then the likes will like be there. You cannot force the likes to happen if you are making like a shitty artworks. The better you are, the easier it is to get likes. And this is like the simplest way to put it. It's like long story short. If you are good, if you are producing like good content, then people will follow at some point. And they will maybe like it and remember or whatever. the best actually artist in my opinion that kind of like mastered the way to on Instagram is Taran Fiedler. One dude is crazy skilled. Like the things that he is doing are really fucking good. Like he knows how to paint like really nicely, and he always like to every single post that he does, he always attaches a quick video, like a speed paint type of a video, where he the metal part also to be in here, where he like shows the process of the entire painting, which is really cool because, for example, I love those type of things, and as far as I know, it the longer someone looks at your stuff, the more Instagram likes you because you have the engagement. And he always posts like the process video from iPad, which is also like the only reason that I am thinking about buying one, because you can like really easily record the process videos, and for like even for some sketches and for like lazy ass drawings, it will be like spectacular type of a thing to have. And yeah, and like he is extremely consistent. Like being consistent on social media is another thing. You cannot have like a good social media account and not be consistent. If there's anything that the algorithm likes, this is consistency. This is top number one thing for it. Be consistent. It will just bring you out to the top. But true. He knows his craft. I guess he also like has a really clear target because all he draws is like muscled monsters and furies basically, and dragons and lizards. But this is like really monothematic. But well, he does it really nicely. So like, who the fuck's care? I don't. Okay, turn off the opacity. How do you actually? Archer. Bit. Bolts. Okay. If you are okay, there. So like in front. By what you hold the arrow? I mean, stupid question. Behind. By the stick behind it. So just pull it. Oh well, he does not need to pull the weight. Does she hold it incorrect? Yeah, this is a toy. I'm stupid. Yeah, the two fingers should be used to hold the arrow. Yeah, and these are the small things that really sometimes slow down the work. You don't know how people hold bow, like arrow, in a place. Like if they use one finger, two fingers, or I mean, you could use one finger, but since this dude definitely is not a titan of strength, then most likely he won't be. He will be using like two fingers. So, and the new layer will actually need to have an arrow. So I'm stupid, not this direction. I'll go like this. How much goes away? Something like this. And this is a really cool stuff. I forgot. Times. I mean, this is like a skeleton, so no one, like, who cares, actually. Arrow tips, they are really fucking cool, and there are like a lot of them, so these are this. Let me see how the burning arrowhead. what type of a arrow you would use. Okay, and here we have an answer. Arrowhead like this were designed to put a flammable object inside of it, so you could lit it on fire. So the arrowhead that I am going for will look like this. And there you have it, a small design part that I was not aware of. And now I will forever remember the fact that you basically need like a small basket in the arrowhead, so you could put something flammable inside of it, and yeah, the more you know. So skeleton archers that are burning shit, they do need stuff like this. And if you add magic to it, then it's a simple math. I will be putting this stuff on fire, so yeah. And I do believe the entire arrow needs to be a bit thicker. So it does look a bit too thin for me, for my liking. And also this is a really nice diagonal for composition. I always liked stuff like this. A bit more to it. A bit more of light. And now let's go to textures.com and flame. And I need a photo of a small flame. Or let me see, burning arrow. How big the flame is on a burning arrow. In real life. Holy fuck, this is actually quite big. Damn, I was not expecting it to be this big. I mean, I know you can have something like this, but this looks much cooler, so I will use this. But this fire is actually much bigger than I expected it to be. Yeah, you can also, well, not this one. You can also have a thing like this. It makes more sense, I guess. Like this. So you basically wrap something around it, but maybe this is like this arrow, and it makes the wrapping much easier. It also made me realize that the bow needs this shape to be a little bit more visible, which is kind of unfortunate because I already like fused together everything. So I need to increase the curvature in here. I mean, you can just dip the normal arrow in fire, and but yeah, but this is cooler. But I do believe even the arrow on the photo is actually having this basket type of a thing in it. Hello, Wataberg. Yeah, because I was not like really streaming on Wednesdays for a really long period of time, so I would say at this moment this is a bit unusual for me to stream on Wednesdays, but I will do my best to continue to do so because yeah, I enjoy streaming, I enjoy talking to myself when I draw, and it is justified if I stream actually. So I will try to do those more often. Okay. Yeah, my favorite arrow is a flu flu arrow. Flu arrow. It looks stupid as hell, and the entire point of a flu arrow is to like not fly. The copy and paste does not work properly recently. So basically every arrow, if you don't take care of it, turns into flu arrow. So flu, it's also a funny name. So if you just shoot it, it will just go down immediately. Okay, I need to find the texture for this texture looks nice. This looks nice. Man, this is getting crowded in here. Let me remove some stuff. This guy is fine. This is not needed. These are no longer needed. This is needed. So yeah, this flame looks okay. This is why I took it. Now, what type of do I want linear dodge add or screen? Linear dodge add actually makes everything a bit brighter behind it. Let me see. And screen. Screen is a little bit more natural in a sense. Control U. Yeah, more streams actually means the faster I will finish this challenge, which is also fine. I mean, I don't really look forward to like finishing as fast as possible, but because I enjoy it. But it means maybe I will be able to like finish this challenge someday. So a nice thing to do if you are like painting fire is to take a smudge tool, take a square brush, and you can like put the strength to like 100%, and then you can basically like paint with what you grab. So for stuff that are burning, this is really cool to kind of like model the fire. So it's really easy to like refine, for example, the edges, because I don't like the fact that it is kind of like going on top of the hand that much, but I like this like reddish after thing going in here. But yeah, so I can like rework it a bit. As you can see, it works really nicely. So this way you can like adjust for your needs, and then if you reduce the strength for like 40%, like fine tune it, you can like smoothen it out like even less with a soft brush. You can like blur the fire so it looks more natural. And this is the thing that is really interesting for me, like because this basically does not interact with the environment whatsoever. It's slightly brighter in here, but it does not make, for example, and this is one of the things that I always really hated, like something like this. Like this light source is not that strong, and a lot of like beginners will, after like lighting an arrow of fire, will do shit like this. And God, if there is anything that I hate, it's something like this. I am like guilty of it myself, but then it does not look good. The best, I think it will be like 5% top, maybe, on like linear dodge. Let's see. Okay, 10% is the actually absolute top part that I would go with how it interacts with the environment. Not more. And it will be like really condensed. This actually looks acceptable. Okay. This is a skeleton, but still it will be like this and this. This is a fire. This is the light. Like, yeah, this makes sense. Okay, maybe the arrow will be a bit brighter on the hand, but not much more. Maybe a bit for the quiver, but also it will be like really small change. Okay. And now the hardest, let me remove all the junk around. Yep. And this is a single layer, so let me select it and be gone. Remove, not the background. This and that. And why and when have I moved the skeleton? Okay, now. I will try to finish this guy on the stream. I don't feel like making the entire new stream for just one guy. So yeah, you be gone. Later I will only like add some more white to it, and yeah, it is way too bright. And especially, I mean, it is fine sometimes in fantasy like paintings because it's like really overused, but again, this fire is small. There is no way it will become a really strong light source, and I base this theory on like this photo single-handedly. You cannot even see, like, maybe something in here is a little bit more orange, but there's like no interaction of like this. The fire seemed to produce much too weak of a light of a fire. Jesus Christ, the fire is much too weak to actually affect the thing. This is the early stage, nice. So yeah, and now this is the texture that I had for the skeleton. Now I need to find the new textures, or I need to reassemble it again. So this looks nice. This texture will go for like the head. Make it a bit smaller. I will make it a bit wider. This is the head texture, and I need the flame to be like relatively similar in size, so they won't like look weird. Now the horizontal flame, this one will be a bit trickier because not many photos are actually the things that are horizontal. This maybe there's like a book burning or something like this, so this looks kinda okay. And then these are a bit, oh, these are a bit more horizontal. Maybe something like this, I don't know. Let's see. Okay, so the basic idea is screen. Oh, I can also take a reference of a Ghost Rider. I forgot about him. A Ghost Rider has a burning skull. Yeah. I can see how they did it. just to see. And again, you can see like the light is only affecting a really small area, so it's not like everything is, and the chain, barely the edge is a bit lighter. So yeah, and I feel like this thing fits relatively nicely. Let me just like move it away from some areas on the face where I don't want it to be. I want some of the flame to like go out of like the nostrils and the eye. What is cool, kinda even like blurring it. I feel this fire is a little bit too big. Just make it like this, and I will try to blend it a bit and make it well a bit more subtle on the top. Strength 20. Strength 100. I kinda don't want the entire school to be like covered in flames. Kinda want it to look like it's around the skull. Removing this flame from here was a bad call. Yeah, like this it looks kinda cool, but let me just move it away from the face. And also what is cool, if you are using like the smudge tool to like shape the flames, you can make a lot of this like really small and subtle flames happen. I kind of wonder if only the head maybe should be burning. I don't know if I want the shoulders to be burning too. Let's see. Well, oh. Let's remove the smart object. I guess I won't, but I want it to be also the arms to be burning, but we will see soon. It will be kinda cool to have like even the core like being like really burning, but it won't make much sense. I like the subtle red hue, so maybe like the flames are appearing out of nowhere. I'm not a huge fan of this shape. I really like this like deep red that is like in the face. It's a bit too much, I think, but I do dig it. I do dig the hue a lot. It should be a bit weaker. Kinda want more the traps to be on fire, not the collarbone. I don't think the collarbone should be that much on fire. So we'll go like this. Yeah. Weaker. You can always like paint your own fire, but if there is anything that I have learned in like previous years, it does not matter how good you are with painting fire, photo texture will almost always look better. Like almost always. Unless you are going for something like really stylized, then okay, but for fire, like I do believe this is what textures are made for. Just use them. And fire is one of the things where you just use the textures. That's all. And there's like small things going on the chest. I do dig those too. Small flames around. Need to glue those to the edge of the skull. This needs to like be burning from the edge of the skull. And this needs to be here. And now I will reduce the strength. So if I move the flame, because I don't want it either to be like extremely sharp, I want some areas to be like sharper, but can I just combine those two and be like screen? Oh, I can. Because the flame is like moving rather quickly, so I don't want the flame to be like extremely sharp. I want some areas to be like sharper, like in here maybe, near the face. This I don't like. And also you can take the current layer type of color picking and just color pick from the photo. So you can like take the color that you like from the photo that you are using and just color pick and then paint on a photo. So this allows me to like fine tune the flames, because if I want something more like this hue, then I can just color pick it. I can just see how it affects everything. I really like how this flame like goes in here around this area. I don't like how it goes in here. Yeah, so now I'm a bit of a painting like the fire. As I said, I don't want to, but I am like adjusting the texture. So it's not that I am like doing something that crazy. And I can imagine actually this flame to affect the color of a jaw. So the shadow in a jawline and in the neck definitely will be like much more red. It will be like orangish, because in here I actually can understand the light to affect the things. And the holes in here also can be a lot darker. And now the biggest question, do I want the fire to go out of eyes? Let's see. Absolutely not. It looks stupid. Yeah, even the oh my god, Ghost Rider does not have the flamey eyes, so neither will mine. And one of the things that I want to make is to take like this like reddish hue, really saturated reddish hue, decrease the opacity and give it like a really slight glow, because like the humidity in the air is quite big because there's like fog. So I can imagine it kind of like affects the light around. Let's see if I can ignore the darkest parts. Yeah, I feel it looks kind of okay-ish. So now we'll just add a bit more like flame going on the arm. So it's not like ending abruptly. Kind of want it to continue max to the arm, and yeah. This will actually be kind of cool as when I think about it. If you are like a skeleton and you just take out the arrow and you just, I don't know, put it in your mouth to lit it, or put it in your eyeball, or just put it on your head and you just lit it. It's lit. It sounds nice as a way to work with arrows. And this is like one of the things that is really good to do is when you are painting with textures is to actually lock the texture. So this way, if you want to just Control V on an object, you won't select texture. This is a thing that is extremely annoying if you are like doing it over and over and over again. Okay, the string. Oh, I need to like rework this edge. So there will be like no white things on the edges. And now let me add an arrow string. This above, okay. Boom. And it's going under the forearm. And again, this is a really thin slice of a thing. But if you just like take a really small amount of effort into it and you just add a bit of a light to it, I think here it will be like entangled back, I believe. Just if you will add like a really small amount of light to it here and there, then it will read 10 times and 10,000 times better. That is a hard thing to say. And in here on the arrow, I'm also missing this shit. I don't know how it's called. The feathers. I'm missing the feathers. So it will be like a proper arrow. And this is one of the things that most likely I would forgot. Usually, I would do any type of an illustration. I will be like, I'm missing something. What it is. And after like hour of thinking, I will like, oh, okay. The most obvious thing is not here. This line is a bit too, well, too hard in here. It's not dark enough, so behind the fingers and be a bit thinner, please. A bit darker here, so it will like clearly cut out from these guys. Then I think it should be just lighter. Oh, it looks stupid. I'll just block the shape and change the saturation of it. Yeah, this looks kind of okay-ish. And because this is like a skeleton again, I want some shit to like be on him. So he's not like really clean type of a creature. Like some things will just hang off him, like some stuff from the forest or whatever. So there will be something like the bow. And these are like, again, a really final type of a details. I will only work a bit more on a background than I will call it today. And it is fine. And then I can imagine stuff like from his ribs and armpits and this area kind of to burn out. It will, like, the fire will like consume it. But I feel like forearms maybe. we'll have some shit. Definitely a lot of stuff will happen in here because this is like the area that is really prone to catch any type of like, I don't know, moss or lines or whatever. So the feet will definitely be a bit more entangled. Kinda want it to be above everything. I want his eyes to be wide open. And if you are adding stuff like this, remember to just sometimes like add this U shape type of a thing, so it won't look like just things that are hanging from it. Kind of looks more that is entangling something, especially in like these areas. So remember, you can use different colors. So this area, it can be like the leftovers of like some tendons and shit like this, or like skin, or whatever. Like, this could be like 1,000 different things. Yeah. This is also like, okay, let's work on a background for a bit and let's call it a day. So I will be like blurring the background and using some effects to make it look nicer. Remove those guys. Fog. I have this really cool brush that makes kind of like textured looking fog. And for a background, what I want to do, definitely I want to remove the repeating pattern. So I will just take a spot healing brush tool. I will simply like go over some areas. Because now it will like take a thing that it sees and it will try to auto-generate the texture. So this way, if I just paint with it, as you can see, it tries to generate the same texture out of the like the information that it has around it, and it allows me to really quickly remove the similarities on the ground. So now it's not like a uniform texture. Now it kind of tried to figure out like, what do I do? How do I like do stuff with it? And now if I want to give it some like logs and shit like this, I will just color pick them because this area will be blurred. So I will take a brush that is a little bit more harsh in a shape and with the textures and everything. And I can do stuff like this. So for example, this is like a tree. And I want those to be under the fog because, or no, I want them to be above the fog, and later I will like take them away. Later I will add like another layer of fog. So now I'm kind of trying to maybe not imagine, because I'm not imagining much. As you can see, I'm just like stealing the shapes from the reference. The only difference is that I have a fog and the reference does not. So I only need to be mindful of this, but I will add some like creepy looking things. This is also a really good occasion to go to my nature brushes type of things and to use brushes like this, because I do have them for a reason in my pack that I am using. So I can like quickly populate some scenes with like some shit and some grass and whatever. Some like branch brushes. So these are not like the must-have type of things in your library, but sometimes it's nice to just have some textures that will add this like random element to everything that you do. And I do believe heavy texturing the background is a nice way to go if you are going to add a level of like believability to it. I do dig some sort of a shape in here, like an old type of a tree, a stump, or whatever. If I really would like to go like hardcore with it, most likely I will just crop it to the ratio of Instagram post, and then I will try to adjust it to the Instagram post. But as you can see, I can add some things in here. And most likely I will add some flames also around, so like small things will also burn in the background, so it won't feel like this, that this is that he is not like flaming. Like I can imagine if he is like going and burning and everything in the forest, then most likely he will like even by accidentally lit something up. Now with like a really special brush, I'm trying to add this lighter hues on the ground so it actually looks like the leaves are laying on the ground. So as the meme says, it's not much work, but it's an honest work. And also with stuff like this, remember to simplify. You don't really need to like make everything over like complex and everything. In here I kinda just want to change the ground level a bit so it's not like a uniform type of a thing. It will have like a different shape to it, because previously it was like a flat ground. Now I want it to be a bit uneven. So I will kind of paint over the shadows, yada yada, and everything. This is a bit too bright. Yeah, and with a ground, I'm like, most likely I will go like this, zoomed out a bit. I will just try to figure it out on the spot relatively quickly. Still having in mind that it is in the background, so I don't want it to be like extremely detailed, but I want it to be at least have some details in it. Because again, the environment is as important in terms of like showing your design as the design itself is. In this case, the environment does not make much sense in terms of a presentation. It should be like, I don't know, in some sort of a catacombs or whatever, but well, it gets the job done. And let me hide the sketch to the top. Boom. And about the flame screen, I will take this like red type of a thing, and I will make him leave. So basically it's the same layer as the flame on his head, and I kind of just I'm adding some flames in the background. So for example, when he was walking in here, he was lighting stuff on his way in here. Most likely it will cause hazardous fire, but well, it did not. And new layer screen, I also want him to release some sparks. So this shape needs to be slightly this shape needs to be slightly more rounded, going like an S. Now it's okay. What is the layer with the sparks? I lost it already. So sparks need to be on the top. Yeah, just adding those. Most likely I should go a bit more crazy with the background. So I also in here am kind of showing the direction of the air, because the sparks are going slightly to the right, which I feel is fine. He is like going with the wind in a sense. Yeah. Adding sparks is always a nice thing if you are like making a flame, because it's just something that we expect to happen. Not that every single flame produces sparks. It's like something needs to like just continue burning while he is like walking. But I think it's a neat detail to have. Of course, using photo is also an option, but it gives me this way a bit more control over it. Let me add some flame in the background. Now let me combine the entire background to... Oh no, no skeleton. Skeleton, no, no. Skeleton, no together. Everything in here can go together. Yes. Second layer of fog. Soften those guys a bit, yes. And now what I can do is I can go to filter, or I can go to like feather 100, filter, blur, box blur. Let's see how it looks like, how it presents itself. It's fine. This para has, yeah. And also the thing that I need to make, but manually, is I need to select blur, box blur. Select the flames in the background, because this is like the layer that is not with the background. And I just need to like add it manually a bit. For the foreground elements, I don't think I will add anything, but now when I have like everything, let me turn off all the references so I know what I am working with. Let me actually duplicate everything that I have in here. With the background. Duplicate layer to the new. So this way I can crop it, because this is like the canvas I was thinking about. Or maybe I will keep it a bit wider, because usually I also send these guys to a friend of mine so he can use them in his book. So yeah, I will keep it like this. And now for a final touch, white spot in here, darker spot on the edges, so kind of like a vignette or something like this. Overlay, like a really subtle thing. So as you can see, the values go like this. It all focuses a bit more on a background. I won't delete it. So like, yeah, I want to kinda, and now it looks okay. I can flatten everything. Usually when I flatten everything, I always try to work on a copy. Just adjust this edge, because it got kind of lost. Too much of a loss in here. A bit more light here. Okay. This is adjusted. And also a really nice thing to do in the end. I just want this eye to be like more like melted down. A really nice thing to add in the end. This guy should be a bit smaller. This shape is a bit strong. Is to duplicate it. Wait, I will soon tell you. Sharpen sharpen, smart sharpen. This is always a good thing to add, like 200%, 0%, because then it gets just sharper. And a friend of mine is actually working on his Bena RPG. There is... It's like he's basically at this point, this is like his life project, and he has like tons of great artists in here. So this is like this. Cheers to Sławek. He's like making his own paper RPG system, and he's really good at it. And basically, since I started almost, he wrote to me about some images, and I was like, yeah, man, cool, I can help you with it. So a lot of great artists actually contributed to this project, like a lot of great artists, because he usually contacts a lot of different artists and ask them for like licenses and everything. And yeah, this is a really, really neat thing. And he also has like tons of great ideas. Actually, I don't know why I even started this Diablo challenge. I could just do on streams monsters for him. This would actually make more sense in a way. But yeah, he will also most likely use those, because again, I'm trying to like help him out with this project. So this is basically like a book, with RPG book, with the system of his own. And now he will go a bit more hardcore with it, because he is planning to work for the entire year on it, like really heavily, because at this point he is working on it for like, I don't know how many years, but a really long time. So yeah, like a small adjustments. Yeah, I feel a bit more of a ground is needed, so yep, just a bit more, like this much. If you need ground, just go select content aware fill, and boom. It will think for a while. And I forgot that I have a feather, so it did nothing. Shift F5, content aware, and let's see the magic. And it will automatically generate a missing part. And after like a small adjustment of the perspective and everything, you get a thing that really nicely blends with the environment. You just need to like get rid of the scene. Yeah, especially as I said, like almost every single thing that I have ever done at some point will be in this project, because like it's his project of passion, and I really like this project of passion. It just looks nice, it's neat, so I was more than happy to actually contribute to it. And yeah, by accident I tried to smudge the empty layer, so since Photoshop is stupid with stuff like this, now it will try to smudge the empty layer. And now I have to wait and for it to think. Come on. I have no idea why, but okay, I have to get this to max. Smudging on Apple's computers works like light years better. And why is the... Okay, because the layer has like 1% of opacity. On PC, smudging works like absolute shit. It's like terrifyingly bad. And also in here, a small thing, avoid having stuff being on the same height. You do stuff like this, try to keep it to be a bit different. Okay, small adjustments. And the only thing that I need to make last is this is way too nice of a line. It's too even, so even in real life we would not see like a straight line that perfectly. It will kind of like jitter in our eyes. So, and since this is not like a perfect string, it should be a bit more uneven. Honestly, I don't have like a shitty setup by any means, and the smudging is still working like shit. As far as I know, the biggest problem with Photoshop at the moment is that it cannot utilize more than one graphic card. I mean, I do have one graphic card, but there are folks who have like 5 graphic cards, and it does not matter for Photoshop. It can only use one. So yeah, okay, this is done. This is done. I call him done. So this is like final and digital painting. No, live stream. Let me just save it. Skeleton final. Yeah, and only open as recent. I will just crop it to my needs. So you will see how I crop it. So this is the previous version, and this is the final version. Looks a bit nicer. Convert to smart object. And I will just resize it, crop it to the Instagram post size. So you can see how it looks like. I actually like the fact that the fire is a bit cropped on the top. It's neat. Yeah. This is the final painting, so let's randomize the next monster. And yeah. So please don't be a skeleton. D7. I am genuinely afraid. Carver. Okay, I can live with this. This is a nice one. A blue gummy boy. So this is the next one. Yeah. Basically, this is a fallen one. This is like the most basic monster that you can have. But the blue ones were, like the dark blue ones were, I think, the strongest ones. Or the pale blue were the strongest ones. I don't remember. I think I have done the pale blue. Yeah, the dark, I think the dark ones were stronger. Maybe carvers were stronger. But yeah, it's not a skeleton. Yeah. Fuck yeah. It's not a skeleton. Yeah, thanks for watching, everybody. I guess let's see you on Monday, and this is all for today. This is the longest stream at this moment, almost 3 hours. So I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something new. This only took like 5 hours to finish, from start to finish. So relatively nice, nice, small thing on the feet, a bit more light. Yeah, it's black. Yeah, this is all. Thanks for watching, and see ya till the next time.